The borough was originally self-governing, with its own council, which met latterly in the fine town buildings in Newbridge Street, which were opened in 1830 and built to a design by Thomas Hamilton. Ayr was also the county town where Ayr County Council looked after the affairs of the landward areas. This led to the establishment of the county buildings in Wellington Square, which were constructed between 1818 and 1822 and housed the administrative buildings and the Sheriff Court. In 1931, the Duke of York, who was later to become King George VI, laid the foundation stone for a further extension, which opened in 1935. The entire complex now housed additional council offices as well as the Sheriff Court and the High Court when it met in circuit. In 1975, the Ayr Town Council was abolished under local government reform, and control of the borough's affairs was vested in the joint control of the new Kyle and Carrick District Council and Strathclyde Regional Council. In 1996, control was yet again changed to South Ayrshire Council, who now use the building as well as the Sheriff Court. Ayr quickly became popular as a residential town for those wishing to live in pleasant surroundings and yet be within commuting distance of the Glasgow area. Many attractive areas of housing were built over the years, and today they are still much sought after. Although the local holiday trade has all but disappeared, Ayr today is a busy and thriving town. Its position as the principal county town has led to its importance as a major shopping area. With excellent transport links with the surrounding area, it is becoming increasingly popular as a residential and commercial area. And of course, given fine weather, hordes of visitors still descend on the town to enjoy its attractions. No story of Ayr would be complete without mention of Scotland's national bard, Robert Burns, who was born in Alloway in 1759. Today, Alloway is visited by countless tourists from all over the world who come to see the famous cottage where he was born and to savour the atmosphere of other attractions like the Brigadoon and Kirk Alloway. The development under the Burns National Heritage observed life as it was then and painted in words a vivid picture for others to enjoy and reflect upon. How many of us, though, take the time to record a picture of everyday scenes and events? For nothing stays still. Today's news is tomorrow's history. The shadowy outlines of the cranes at Ayr Harbour, seen from the Newton shore one day in the 1930s, is the starting point of our journey. The harbour was, of course, the traditional source of Ayr's prosperity as a trading port and the natural choice for a series of photographs. For many years the principal export from here was coal from the Ayrshire mines, which was brought down to the harbour by rail. From here the wagons were pulled along the quayside by a system of hawsers to the waiting ships, as these pictures taken in 1931 show. They were then lifted bodily into the air by a crane, suspended over the ship's hold, and the entire contents tipped out. This must have been an extremely noisy and dirty business. Colliers like this then carried the coal away, mainly to Ireland. This was an important part of the local economy. In 1939, for instance, 1.75 million tonnes of coal was exported. Later on, a large coal elevator was built for loading the ships, and here we can see it under construction in 1932. A railway bridge allowed trains access to the South Harbour. This was later discontinued after the shipyard closed in the early 60s and the railway line fell into disuse. In 1978, the bridge was completely removed. Today, its foundations can still be seen in the river. From early days, Ayr was also an important fishing port with its own fish market, and was where the fishing fleet came to unload their catch. This picture, taken in the 1950s, shows the large number of boats that used the port at that time. The fish trade continued until 1996, when the fish market was moved to Troon. The area is now deserted and waiting a new use. The original Ayr dredger, the Kyle, was actually built in Ayr by Samuel McKnight in 1885 and operated until 1949. In 1949, another dredger, the Carrick, was brought to Ayr. It had been built in 1938 by Simons and Company of Renfrew. For a short spell, both dredgers operated, and then the Kyle was withdrawn and the work was continued by the Carrick, which serviced both Ayr and Troon harbours for over 30 years. In this picture we see Jimmy McCrindle, who was the helmsman of the Carrick. The harbour also had its own tug, which it shared with Troon, the paddle tug Walney. It was built in 1904 in Tyneside and operated in the port between the 1930s and the 1960s. There was also a port diver, David Anderson. He was the man responsible for carrying out all manner of underwater repairs and maintenance. There were also regular pleasure sailings from the harbour. The paddle steamer Juno was the Ayr boat in the 1930s. She was built in 1898 at Clydebank. Here we see her entering Ayr Harbour in 1931 on her last cruise before being broken up. A brand new turbine steamer, the Duchess of Hamilton, replaced the Juno as the Ayr boat. After the war, this service was operated by another ship, the Marchioness of Graham.
The Clyde pleasure.
The large fleet of steamers that operated in the Clyde in those days required regular maintenance, and many of these ships came to Ayr for their winter overhaul. During the 1950s, the Queen Mary II, the Duchess of Hamilton, the Duchess of Argyll, and the Glen Sannocks were all frequent visitors. At the far end of the South Harbour was a swing bridge over the entrance to the shipyard and slip. After the shipyard closed, the bridge was removed. Look carefully at the sandstone pier in the middle. It's still there today, but the scene is quite different. Part of the slip, with a rather forlorn old fishing boat sitting on it, is all that is left today of the shipyard, which was started on this side of the river in 1883 by McKnight and Macready.